Early on, when we were first approached by Chris Miller and Phil Lord, their request for us was to come up with a new visual language that would bring the comic book to life.
We spent a year just testing and trying to find the look of this project, and we got to pick and choose our favorite things from the live-action real world and the cartoon world and combine them to make this comic book world. I think here we're kind of perfectly poised to do that because we do both.
As someone who grew up reading comic books and sort of obsessed with comic books and being influenced as an artist by comic books, I've always looked at the page and noticed all of the misprints and the CMYK offsets and the screen tones that went into making them. It's the printing process that I was always very aware of, and I thought that would be a really interesting way to make 3D look different. To just take that two-dimensional printing process and apply it to a three-dimensional world.
We actually ended up looking for every little error that occurred on the show that looked interesting. We ended up looking at it and going, is that something that we could use? Is that something that is cool?
I think I've always had an aspiration to make a movie that didn't just honor the art of book, but actually looked like the art of book. So I said to Danny Dimian at the very beginning of the project, I said, I want the audience to be able to stop any frame, and it should look like a piece of artwork. I don't think you should have to look at the art of book and say, oh, they kind of did it. I wanted them to be able to compare the artwork we did to the frames and see as close a match as we could.
Looking at the art that we wanted to be inspired by, most of that imagery is more about the lines and the form and the color. There's not as much material properties to it. So our rendering technique relies a lot more on something that looks more like an illustration than, say, a more traditional material-based look. And some of the things that we do to try to make it look like it's hand done and like it's actually hand illustrated, we came up with a few things that we noticed over and over again in the comic book. Shadows are typically hatched, and a lot of the highlights and the transition of smooth colors are done with half-toning. So we typically try to avoid smooth color transitions and use a half-toning or a printing technique through our rendering and our compositing to actually pull that off.